started. And, the people in the colonies wanted to send the bosses in England a lesson, and they said, America's for freedom. And that's exactly what the first folks came over here said that I was just talking to. It's all about freedom, and that's exactly right. This is sending a message to the folks in Washington that America's future begins with you. It begins with us. It doesn't begin in Lansing. It doesn't begin in Washington. And the ingredient for American success is for us to give and ensure that you keep the freedoms to make the decisions that make this a great country. And that's what this whole health care debate is about. Over the last 8 months, you've seen a lot of bad things coming out of Washington. Each and every one of them is an erosion of your freedom. Each and every one of them is something that says Washington is in a better position to take care of you and to make your decisions than what you are. It was 10 days into this administration where, unbelievably, we passed $787 billion of new spending. That is a transfer of power because it's your money going to Washington, and Washington deciding how that money is going to be spent to stimulate our economy. It's not going to happen. The other thing, it's not your money. Okay? It's not your money. It's your kids and your grandkids' money. They're the ones that are going to be the ones that are going to have to pay this back. And it's an insult to every one of us. I've been crisscrossing the state as I'm riding down the highways, and I'm seeing some of these construction projects, and I'm not sure exactly what these signs say, but the bottom line on these signs is, thank the Obama administration for these projects. And it's not. This is our money. But, that's one thing. Then you've got cap and trade, which is a major new tax on each and every one of us. You have the federal government now running GM and running Chrysler. That's not what we want. And now, what's going to perhaps be the most fundamental debate that we will see this year and probably in this administration, what's going to happen to the most personal thing that each of us want to control. It's our health care. It's 16 to 18%, and make no doubt about it, this is about control. Who's going to control 18% of the economy, and who's going to control the health care decisions for you, for your spouse, for your kids, and for your parents. And there are people in Washington who believe that they are in a better position to make that decision for you than what you are. And they're going to do it in a way that says, number one, it's going to add to the deficit again. The president has said this will be deficit neutral. And it's kind of like, well, Mr. President, I hope so, but everything that's going through Congress right now, the price tag on it is $1 trillion to $1.6 trillion, but I don't hear you coming out and saying, this doesn't meet my criteria, and if this makes it to my desk in this form, I'm going to veto it. I haven't heard that yet. The president says, you'll be able to keep your health care. He doesn't know, because in this legislation, we create one more czar. Now, this time we call him a commissioner, or she a commissioner, but this commissioner, in the bill that went through the Education and Labor Committee, has 187 statements in it where it says the commissioner shall, the commissioner will, the commissioner must. And every time it says the commissioner shall, it also says you won't be able to do this anymore because the power is transferred from you to the commissioner, and the commissioner is now empowered to make this decision. And guess what? He's appointed, or she. He or she is appointed. They are not elected. They are not accountable to us. They are not accountable to you. They are another bureaucracy in Washington that is sucking power from us and making decisions for you. The president this morning was on the radio. And this is not an issue about abortion or pro-life. There are probably divisions in this crowd, but the president says it doesn't cover abortions. Guess what? He doesn't know, because this decision will be made by the commissioner. All I can tell you is that every time we tried to put provisions into the bill in committee that would kind of set parameters as to whether this new legislation would or would not fund abortions, every time we tried to put in pro-life legislation, guess what? It was defeated. They didn't hear me either, that's right. As you can maybe tell from my voice, I've been hollering as loud as I can for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and he still can't hear me. Now, the good thing is, you're right. I've been hollering for the last 5 weeks because we passed this in the middle of July, and we've been hollering and saying no, and he didn't hear us. He didn't hear many of us on the stimulus bill. He didn't hear us on cap and trade. He hasn't heard us on health care. But thanks to you, I think he's starting to listen. Because people like you are here today, because people like you have been going to town hall meetings, because you've been going to representatives and senators' offices even when they weren't there, because you've been flooding their offices with emails, letters, and all kinds of other communications, I think they're finally starting to, well, let's put it this way. I think they're starting to hear you. What that means is for the next few weeks, for the next few months, for the next few years, you're going to have to watch to see whether they're actually listening to you. Right. Yeah. And if they're not, then we're all going to have to speak just a little bit louder. All right? So, all right. But hey, thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me be a part of this, and hopefully I can represent your values, your passion, and your energies in Washington on this debate, and we can end up with a package of good health care reform, because there is good health care reform. But good health care reform says there's more opportunity, there's more decisions, and more power for you and less for Washington. Let's continue moving forward. We've got many things in common, and the one thing that we have in common is we all recognize America's future begins with us. It doesn't begin in Lansing, and it doesn't begin in Washington. Thank you very much.
And Tyler's going to read them, and then you'll have an opportunity to answer those. Yeah, but you see,
put me in the penalty box.
But yours is here. But look at this. These are the other people we invited that did not come.
Hoekstra for president!
All right, first question is, who wrote this health care bill?
Well, let me just explain the process to you a little bit and where we are. Right now, there are at least 3 different health care bills that are moving forward in the House. There's been a bill that has come out of the Ways and Means Committee that has, they reported out a bill that has all the tax provisions in it. There's a bill that has gone through the Education and Labor Committee. That's the committee that I sit on. That has had modifications into exactly how, this thing would be implemented and those types of things. And then it's also a version that's gone out of the Commerce Committee, and that has, so each of these committees has reported a bill. What now happens is these 3 bills go into a Rules Committee, and the Rules Committee has the latitude of doing whatever it wants with the versions of the bill that come to it. It could be something totally different. It doesn't mean that they got to take this piece from one committee, that piece from another, and that one, and put it, and just kind of glue them together. It can start from scratch, and I think it will. It will write a whole new health care bill. So who writes this? It's professional staff. It is the White House. And at this point in time in the House of Representatives, it's been exclusively written by the Democrats. That I don't want that to be, you can interpret it as a partisan comment or whatever, but it has not been Republicans and Democrats in a room